Hello, this is Stuart Jones here, with a quick word about the free audiobook version of my second novel, another adult psychological thriller, called Minotaur. College graduate Rupert Drake moves to a seaside town to start a new life. He meets a variety of strange people and is beguiled by two very different women. But who is the man in room 6? Why does he never leave his room? And who is killing young girls? Here's an extract from the book. An apparition came floating up the stairs. It took the form of a woman's dress in a subtle pattern and of a deep magenta. A disembodied hand hovered above it. Rupert felt a chill of fear run up his neck, and he took a step back, his left shoe inadvertently striking the doorframe. And then all became clear, for the sound alerted the owner of the hand to his presence. The dress was lowered, and a strikingly pretty woman stood with it in one hand, which was after all not as disembodied as first impression suggested. She had been carrying the newly pressed garment on a hanger high in front of her, in an attempt to protect its trailing hem from the dusty staircase. They both got a shock at the sudden materialization of the other. The dress she had on was of tailored cream, which flattered her skin and hair, and her shoes and gloves and little handbag were all fashioned from the palest milk chocolate, or something very like it, in tint and texture. Round her throat she wore a jade necklace, which deepened the colour of her eyes. She spoke on impulse. "Oh, you did give me a shock." "Well, you gave me a bit of a jolt too," he said, running his eyes all over her. "In fact, I thought at first you were a phantom." "Sorry?" "A ghost. But it seems not." She smiled, and they stood there on the landing facing one another. "I don't think I've seen you before," she said, folding the dress over her other arm. She had a slow, deep voice, very English in intonation. "No, I don't believe you have." "Rupert Drake," he said, holding out a hand, which she tentatively shook. Her fingers were as soft as silk, and one of them had a wedding ring on it, he noted unhappily. "I'm staying with Morgan. The chap who lives in this room," he added, turning slightly and indicating the door. "Oh, Morgan, yes. He sometimes helps me with little tasks. I'm not very practical, you see. Actually, I could do with his help now. My television is playing up. I'm afraid he's out at the moment. Of course, I'll look at it for you if you'd like." She smiled again and said, "Are you sure you don't mind?" "Not at all." "I'm sorry, I didn't tell you my name, did I?" He shook his head, swaying a little on the balls of his feet. "Anne Whitrow." "It's this way," she said, in her low purr, and he followed her into the room. It was modestly furnished and pleasantly light. A child's drawings were pinned to the wall beside the sink. A fridge, cooker, 2 standard lamps, double bed, sofa, 2 tables, one large, one low and small, made up the fixtures. "Where's the TV?" "Oh, yes, right," she said, and laying the dress on the bed, walked around it and pulled out a small set, which she carried across to a glass stand in the far corner. "Can I make you some tea?" "That would be great, thanks." "What's wrong with this, then?" "Some problem with the aerial, I think," she said, filling the kettle. Rupert fiddled with the connection, trying various options. Eventually, a perfect picture appeared. "Oh, good. Thanks for that," she said warmly, and having confirmed his preferences for either milk and or sugar, brought over the tea. "Have you known Morgan long?" He sat on one end of the sofa, sipping tea and breathing in her perfume. "Not very long, no. I moved here from Oxford about 2 months ago, having got a job at Seaboard, which is how I met him." "Is that where he works?" "I see." "I'm looking for a place of my own, or supposed to be. I like it here too much, though. Especially now," he added, in an inaudible aside, which she failed to catch. "What prompted the move to Brighton?" Her question seemed very natural, and he found himself unburdening himself to this beautiful, quiet, elegant woman. He talked at great length, the words tumbling out until he seemed to have informed her of his entire movements since well before coming down from college. But there was one thing he somehow failed to tell her, and that was about Poppy Lydecker. "I think your reasons for getting away from the home situation are perfectly understandable,"
she said, replacing a strand of hair behind an ear. "But as a parent, I can also see things from the other side of the coin. It's good that you send them word about yourself from time to time, if not your location. Don't forget they love you, and your mother shall be hurting, particularly, I should think." His blue eyes, square-jawed face, and the unusual shade of his pale blonde hair, as smooth and bright as a helmet, made this young man's appearance striking to Anne. He was carefully shaven, obviously well brought up, and had large but shapely hands and delicate skin. "And you?" he said. "Do you mind me asking about your own situation? Or shall I shut up? After all, it's none of my business, really." He swallowed nervously. She turned melting blue eyes towards him. "No, I don't mind. It's a straightforward enough story. Girl meets man and they marry. They have a child. Man starts drinking heavily. Man is ghastly to wife and child. They flee to a room of their own in a desperate quest for some peace. And there you have it." There was a silence, and they could hear street sounds from beyond the window, children playing, cars passing, the wail of a siren. Did he... Was he physically abusive?" Rupert put down his cup and inched nearer to her on the sofa in an unconsciously protective response to her dreadful tale. Anne felt the tears sting her eyes and fought against the urge to cry, but it was too late. This charming, handsome young man had spotted the incipient emotion. "He wasn't he?" said Rupert in a disgusted voice. "Did he hit both of you? The child too, I mean?" She quickly raised her head then, and rubbing her eyes with a tissue, said, "No, he would never do that. No matter how drunk he was. He has come close to it once or twice, though. And of course, that's why we're here now. So at the moment Alec is living in our house in Kemp Town. That's at the other end of Brighton." "Mrs. Whitrow, Anne, please." Inside, despite the revulsion of her personal history, he glowed at this invitation to be on a less formal footing with her. "Anne, one can't expect life of going to hit one at every twist and turn." "No, quite. But Alec wasn't always like this. He was loving and attentive when we first met. And once Daniel was born, he was so proud, to have a son. It was his heart's desire. They were so close." "You speak about him as if he were dead." Anne looked up at him with an expression of the utmost gravity, and then stood, taking the tea things across to the sink. With the dying sunlight, the room had grown dim, allowing shadows to pool in the corners. "I have to collect Daniel from school now. I must say I've enjoyed our talk, and meeting you, Rupert. It feels good to get a lot of that sort of thing off my chest once in a while." Rupert got to his feet. "I can't think why I haven't seen you before now, with your room right next to Morgan's." Anne laughed, her face lighting up in the process. "That's easy to explain. Daniel and I have been away, staying with an old friend of mine. It was a school holiday, you see." "Well," she broke off in a lots-to-do voice, "I really must go now." They came out onto the landing as Morgan was coming up the stairs, and he nodded to her as she passed him. "Hey, Prince Charles, how was your day off?" he said breezily as he put the key in the door. Rupert gazed after her. Sent by God.
Why not go to the online audiobook version of this, my second novel, an exciting and engrossing thriller, to hear more? The web address is http://Minotaurbook2.blogspot.com, and the 2 in that web address is the number 2, not the word.